Good morning. I begin with a poem, A Place of Belonging and Caring. The author is unknown. A place of belonging and caring. It is not by chance that you arrived here today. You have been looking for something larger than yourself. Inside of you, there is a yearning, a calling, a hope for more. A desire for a place of belonging and caring. Through your struggles, someone nurtured you into being, instilling a belief in a shared purpose, a common yet precious resource that belongs to all of us when we share. And so you began seeking a beloved community, a people that does not put fences around love, a community that holds its arms open to possibilities of love, a heart home to nourish your soul and share your gifts. Welcome home. Welcome to worship. As I read this poem, I couldn't help but thinking about my involvement with Soulful Wednesdays. When Barbara approached me to be a part of Soulful Wednesday and even lead a Soulful Wednesday service, I said, of course. Then, as the time drew nearer for me to put a service together, like Judy said, it's a lot, and you really gotta dig deep. I thought, way to go, Lynn. You can't do this during the week. You're a single mom, you're a teacher, you're on committees at school, not by choice. My nerves and anxiety were getting the best of me, and the thoughts of what if I put together isn't good enough? I've always struggled with, am I enough? And then what if nobody connects with it? What was I gonna do? So the first service came, and I burned my finger lighting the chalice. Like, legitimately, it was burned, a blister. But I tried not to react, even though it really hurt. By the way, Dave, you were the only one that noticed I burned myself, yeah. As I continued, I noticed that people were looking at me with kind eyes. I could feel it. I felt their acceptance and open hearts and minds. My nerves began to fade. I was feeling more relaxed and present in the moment. And really, that's what it's about, being present in the moment. The author states, you began seeking a beloved community, a heart home to nourish your soul and share your gifts. Being a part of weekday worship has given me another space and time to nourish my soul and share from the heart. The more I learn about West Shore, it's all about sharing. Love, acceptance, support, connections, lifting each other up, and nurturing each other. I know now that leading a service during the week, I will be met with love and acceptance. And I know what you all are thinking right now. I should have known that from the beginning. And you're right. We are a precious resource for each other. The author also states that we have a desire for belonging and caring. Being able to worship during the week solidifies the feeling of belonging and caring. I cherish this from our congregation. We don't put fences around love. We open our arms to possibilities of love. We nourish each other and share our gifts with each other. We do belong to each other. We do care about each other. And I'm gonna add a quick example of this, and of course they're not here today, but last December, I had to put my cat to rest. The cat was 19, and I'd had the cat for 17 years. And it was the Sunday before I had to put him down on Monday. And after the service, I kind of sit over there, there's a bunch of us. I turned around to Rachel and Jeff Modjaleski, and they asked me how I was doing, and that was all it took. I started crying, and I'm not talking about the little this. I'm talking about ugly crying, mascara running, running nose, tissues everywhere, okay? And they gave me the love that I needed. They listened to me, they hugged me, they just were there for me. And I can tell you that I didn't really know them at this point other than sitting over there watching her make her little animals, but they gave me what I needed. And I left here knowing that I could be there for my daughter, be there for my pets that I'd had for 17 years. And it's all about showing up for each other, and they really did that for me. And I just feel like any of you would do that for me, and I would do that for any of you. So I am grateful to be a part of Sunday worship and weekday worship. So I say, welcome home, welcome to worship.
Thank you, Lynn. We enter now into our ritual of For All That Is Our Lives. Or we don't. We don't. Time to sing. And now we enter into our time of For All That Is Our Lives, our weekly ritual. And now we come forward to share from the heart in our ritual of For All That Is Our Lives. These are the joys and the sorrows of our hearts, which in Reverend McCarr's absence today will be given to our pastoral care leader, Kathy Strausser, to be shared with Reverend McCarr upon his return. As we settle into this, our sacred space, can we take a few deep breaths? There we are. Let me begin today with these words from Jésus Krishnamurti. Eventually, we learn that spirituality is not just about leaving life's problems behind, but about continually confronting them with honesty and courage. It is about ending our feeling of separation from others by healing our relationships, whether with our parents, our coworkers, our friends, our congregants. It is about bringing heightened awareness and compassion to our family, our life careers, and our community service. This all blends as one, doesn't it? So many of you are aware that one of my passions in my ministry the last 7 years has been to bring many ways of worship and community building into our daily lives in order to continue to build our West Shore community. Part of my calling has been to be mindful of the ways to nurture the spirituality of everything we do as a congregation. All of us. Especially to me, the ones who can't or choose not to be part of a Sunday service or worship experience, perhaps due to school or parenting or caretaking or work obligations that have increasingly tended to take over our weekends. As our culture adjusts to this, so must we. So we have been blessed this summer with 2 of our worship associates' sermons that led right to what I'm about to talk about, so thanks. They were able to highlight topics that led right into this. And in her sermon, Donna did, "Why do we use worship?" And she said, "We don't hear as much talk here about God or Christ, and yet we still come here each Sunday to worship. We still find our sanctuary as a place of beauty and peace. Are we so different from other religions in that way?" So this got me thinking of the phrase you sometimes hear often, Easter and Christmas Catholics, or fill in whatever faith tradition you have, used to define those of us whose idea of church comes into play only on holidays and special occasions. So where do youths fall on this continuum of how to show up in our faith? Why, I observe a few people who only we see at the beautiful Christmas Eve services. I find that much likely the case to be in UU communities. There have been many times while asking people to sign up for different programs or events here at the tables in the rotunda, people would say to me, "Now listen, I can't be here every day of the week. I have to pick and choose." Where there are certainly a few of us, Howard, who like to come every day to every event, and we love that. That is not certainly feasible for many of us. Indeed, it is with a type of mindfulness that we pick and choose when we come. But I say, what a good problem to have, right? With so many amazing options popping up during the week. So the second sermon that led to this was Scott Leonard's take on what's your non-church church. He gave great examples of how when we have other places and communities that we are passionate about, it feeds our soul, much like the spiritual community here does for many of us. His example of his own improv community shared his story of how we can weave the gifts of our spirituality into our weekday life. So today I'm going to share what I've learned a little bit about the benefits not only of having a weekday spiritual individual practice, but how sharing in community, our spiritual selves, our spiritual stories, benefits the greater congregation. So a little history here. I have been around UU and West Shore community and watched it grow and change in many ways for over 30 years. When for a few years I moved to Louisville, Kentucky with my husband Katrina, and my husband Keith and my 3-year-old daughter Katrina, I said I required 3 things: a UU church, a preschool for my daughter, and a Trader Joe's. In other words, the 3 places I was sure would help me to continue to build community. We found all 3 and positioned ourselves within 3 miles of each. But to my surprise, whereas we found community at the 2 local UU churches and are still in touch, and I will see some of them tonight with our amazing friendships from there, our non-church church and beloved community came in the form of a small Quaker Friends school, where my daughter would end up staying till 2nd grade in multi-age classes in inclusive communities, where I ended up working and coordinating the subs and being a part of the lives of all of the people there. And we would spend much of our off hours as families together. Where a few of these families identified as UU, Louisville is an extremely Christian city with many seminaries. This particular school, though, had a bent toward social justice and inclusivity that taught me so many life lessons about what it looks like to build a community. Being in Louisville also gave me my first glimpse of what a town looked like that had a main focus on weekday worship. I learned quickly that most of my friends would not be available for a mom's night out because they were going to church. They would not be available for a meeting because they were going to church. I was surprised by this practice, and I quickly went and found a yoga class for my Wednesday nights. Upon moving back to Cleveland and West Shore, as a parent, my focus was mostly on making sure my daughter had a spiritual community, and that she did here, with junior choir, with Sunday school, and then she was asked in her junior year of high school to be one of the first youth worship associates. And then after she went off to college and I was looking for more spiritual community, the ministers quickly asked me to be a worship associate. Sometimes it is as simple as an ask and saying yes to a challenge that changes your perspective forever. And this was so. So there's much more to that part of my spiritual journey, but that is for another sermon. I want to highlight 2 experiences that started this process of examining how we present as a community during the week. I was invited to the mosque in Parma Heights, 2 blocks from one of my childhood homes, but I had never been there. It was when one of our current ministers was speaking, and when I arrived there, what impressed me, not only that building stuck in the middle of suburban Parma Heights, was the people. There for all kinds of different programs. On what it must have been a Tuesday evening, there were children of all ages, families playing on the playground, children doing their homework, people picking up their children, and a continual in and out of people shuffling to different activities, as well as their call to prayer. This clearly was a place of not just worship, but an active, intense community. The second experience that led me on this path was in 2015. The worship associates were asked to give a sermon in the summer. Mine was scheduled for August, and I spent much of the summer in my hammock crafting my words. So when I got a phone call in mid-June from Reverend Kathleen Rowlands that the person who was to give the sermon the next week had some health issues and was having major surgery the day before the sermon was to be given. The sermon was written, but would I be able to deliver it for her? Again, saying yes is life-changing. That moment of community bonding and during that sermon cemented a friendship between me and Catherine Campbell-Gaston and Warren Campbell-Gaston that will be forever. This was back before we taped our services, before COVID, before Zoom. This began my thoughts on how we attend to our spirituality during the week. Could we redo a sermon on a different night in a different form for others to take part? What would that look like? And so began what you know as Thursdays at West Shore. So when last week I asked our West Shore historian, Gail Schaefer, what midweek worship looked like before that, she cited some various attempts from various ministers and leaders to try to start a program with limited success. And what she affirmed to me and what I noticed was it wasn't about someone having the passion to do it. And so it wasn't as successful. But if you have been at West Shore on weekday evenings in recent years, here's some good news. There is so much happening in this way of spiritual community building. There's a large array of adult education classes that nurture our individual spiritual selves, promote active social justice, discussions, and friendships. Do you want a small group experience? Our connection circles, done in person and on Zoom, based on one topic from Soul Matters, might be the soulful boost you are looking for. Do you desire a once-a-month chance to learn from the stories and spiritual experiences from other West Shore members and friends? Then Thursday at West Shore might be the worth you checking out, if you have not already. Thursday at West Shore is what I eventually felt the calling to create. After those 7 years, it has evolved into a once-a-month service or program where members share their stories of their spiritual practices. As many of you know, we have everything from sound baths to square dances, to book reads, to movies, and much in between. And we always begin these evenings with a community meal from a local restaurant, so you don't even have to cook. So by the way, because I get to be up here, just a quick plug for our very special Thursdays at West Shore coming up on the 26th of September. In 2018, Reverend Tricia Hart, Dave Blazer, and I created a remembrance service to honor those we have lost in our community over the past 5 years. As these past 5 years that we have just had have been of tremendous loss to our community, we are thus recreating this service. Please see the flyer that's in your order of service for details of this special evening where we will honor our ancestors. And I'll tell you, even if you were not blessed to know any of these individuals, please consider coming as we honor our West Shore heritage. I think it'll be a beautiful service. So, and what about Soulful Wednesdays that Lynn and Judy so eloquently talked about? These weekly services, started over a year ago, are led by West Shore lay leaders. The purpose being to provide a short 30-minute worship boost in the middle of the week based on a monthly theme. They provide the time for the joys and the sorrows, short worship-based readings, and a bit of meditation. So if I may, I'd like to share with you a note I received last week from a former member, Heather McCullough, who has recently returned to West Shore, about her experiences with last year's Soulful Wednesday. She says, "Having a small group worship in the middle of the week is very meaningful to me. It grounds me and gives me sustenance to continue living my faith even when my times are tough. Sunday morning only worship is just not enough for me. I crave to practice my spirituality with others more than one day a week. It gives a fuel and positive personal connection to keep working to create a better world and a peaceful heart connected God, so that I may rest and rejuvenate." She says she still has the words from the word basket on her refrigerator from the Soulful Wednesday that she pulled from the basket as a reminder to center herself in this tumultuous world we live in. She says, "Soulful Wednesdays were a blessing to me. Thank you for the beautiful gift, Barbara." No, thank you, Heather. So go back a little ways further to November 2016. Post-election trauma had set in. And after joining several political groups, I quickly decided that a better approach for me was getting involved in social action activities at West Shore, bringing my focus back to my spiritual home. If Soulful Wednesdays had been available then, that might have been where I started. Soulful Wednesday, which functioned for many of us as a drop-in service, provided a space to be intentionally in the moment with yourself and the sacred community. So the news is at this time, Soulful Wednesday is on a hiatus. as the committee and Reverend Anthony examine its future path. Many of you, 76 in all, which is a pretty good showing, filled out a survey this spring about our weekday worship. Your responses were varied and much appreciated as we look to the future of building our West Shore community. So if you missed out on a chance to fill out the survey and after this sermon decide you want to do one, see me or contact the office and we'll email you one. So the benefits of investing our time and energy in our community building and small group ministries are vast and surely come to our aid, as Lynn said, as full circle moments when we need it the most. It is indeed where we turn when life is at its toughest. It allows us to make short-term and long-term friendships that will sustain us, allows us to say yes to the challenges of nurturing our spiritual growth individually and among our community. So I heard an affirmation as I was writing this yesterday, and it pretty much sums it up for me. We don't have to do it, but we get to do it. Let me say that again. We don't have to do it. We get to do it. Yes. So let me offer these closing words by Powell Davies. We must push forward to a new and deeper understanding of the spiritual beginning, with a full acceptance of it, the spiritual that demands we deal justly in all our relationships, that we cast aside our prejudice and all escapes and all our excuses, the spiritual that calls us from sloth to effort and endurance. I have to say that one again. The spiritual that calls us from sloth to effort and endurance, and from easy purposes to difficult aims and high endeavors. The spiritual that speaks in conscience, the spiritual that says the soul can only grow by truth and love and righteousness, and that this is written in the laws of ultimate reality, the laws of God or your own spiritual guidance. Yes, and the spiritual that says that nothing that we can do be availing into the new age has found its soul. For that is what is missing. No civilization can endure without the faith that gives it nurture. And no civilization can be built except by men and women of soul. Namaste. Go in peace. Take care of yourself so that you can help take care of others. Namaste. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry with us until we meet again. Please join me in a call and response. It's in the hymnal number 468, but it should be appearing on the screen in a minute. I will read the first line and you follow. We need one another when we mourn and would be comforted. We need one another when we are in despair, in temptation, and in need to be recalled to our best selves again. We need one another in the hour of success when we look for someone to share our triumphs. We need one another when we come to die and would have gentle hands prepare us for the journey. Life's we are in need, and others are in need of us.